Communication training with Stan O'Connor.
The first strategy that we're going to be talking about this week is called label planting. Wow! Label planting is a strategy that we can use to tell our customers what to think of us and also what to think of our business. Here's what I mean by that. If you have ever been to the Camelback Marriott in Phoenix, Arizona, it is an experience you will not forget, because when you go into the Camelback Marriott, you will be overwhelmed with a sense of pleasure. Why? Because they constantly use the word pleasure. For example, when you say thank you to someone at the Camelback Marriott in Phoenix, they won't simply say to you, "You're welcome." They'll say to you things such as, "It was my pleasure to help." When you call to the front desk, if you're checked in, for example, when I was there, I called down to the front desk and I said, "Hi, could I have Miss Dixon's room, please?" And they said, "I'll connect you with pleasure." And at first, it struck me as so different. I was like, wait a minute, no, I don't want to be connected with pleasure. I wanted Miss Dixon's room. And then when Crystal answered, Miss Dixon, I remember feeling like, wow, I kind of feel like I'm alive with pleasure. And I wanted to call back the front desk and do it again and again and again. And it's funny because after I left that hotel, thinking to myself, wow, that was really one of the most pleasurable experiences I've ever had, I picked up the USA Today newspaper, and they were listing the top 10 hotels in America, the top rated hotels when it comes to customer service. And sure enough, there it was on the list. I didn't know that when I went there, but when I saw it on the list, I sure understood why. I remember, for example, I asked one of the employees that was on the floor, "Excuse me, do you know where the bathroom is?" And the employee said to me, instead of, "Oh yeah, it's right over there," or instead of saying to me something along the lines of, "Oh sure, I'll walk with you," that employee said to me, "It'd be my pleasure to bring you, come on." And by the time I heard the word pleasure 4 times, I knew something was up. And I liked it because I thought, oh, this is smart. They have a theme here. They want to associate the feeling of pleasure with their business. And it's worked for them really well. We can all do that. The theory of label planting is that people are going to think of you and associate you with words that you tell them to associate with you. And it is extremely effective. I've seen it work in my business, and I've seen it work in many other businesses. So here's what you do. You want to figure out, what's my brand? And this could be for you as a professional. For example, if you are working in the Wells Fargo phone center, that may be, and you might not set the tone or the message of Wells Fargo. However, you will set the tone for what people think of you. You will set the tone for what your boss thinks of you, for what your coworkers think of you, in many ways. And one way that we can decide how other people are going to think of us is by choosing words that you want them to associate with you. So if you have not already done this, if you're in a small business and you want to do this for your business, what you would want to do is sit down with your team, or if maybe it's a departmental thing and you want to, if you're the leader of your department and you want to decide what your customers and fellow coworkers or supervisors or employees are going to think of you, whatever situation you're in, you can apply these same principles where you sit down with your team or with your co-directors, or if it's for you on a personal level, you just sit down with yourself and decide, what are the words that I want people to associate with me? For example, when I want people to, when people think of me, I want them to think, oh, he gives me the words. So that is my slogan, and it's what I weave into my conversations, that here are the words, here is the verbal pattern, here's what you can say, here's the step-by-step verbal process, here's a danger phrase, a power phrase, so that people associate me with words. I also want people, for example, to think it's easy, and it is easy. However, people recognize the characteristics that you point out. And so, for example, when I started off in the training business, I was training on completely different subjects than from what I'm training on now. And I was training on technical analysis of the stock market, and I wanted people to believe that the software that I was introducing them to was easy to use. So during that presentation, time and time and time again. I would say, so you simply click here and then you click there and look what you've got. Isn't that easy? Or I would say, and this is a very easy system to use. Here's what you do. You simply do this, you simply do that, and there you go. Easy. If you're giving a presentation, what do you want people to walk away thinking about whatever it is that you're presenting? That it's easy, that it's economical, that it's safe? Use those words over and over and over again in your presentation, and people who are listening and watching will associate those words with the product or service that you're presenting. On a personal level, what do you want people to think of you? Do you want people to think you're helpful? Then what you want to do is, as many times as you can, find opportunities to weave into your conversation something about being helpful. The word help. For example, if you want your department, we should have already made a departmental compass and a personal compass. And if you want people in your department, if you want your customers to believe that people in your department are helpful, have them use the word help many times, as often as they can and as soon as they can in their conversations. For example, you might make it a standard line, one of your standard greeting lines or one of your standard opening lines or starter phrases in conversations. Sure, I can help you with that. So if a customer calls anyone in your department and asks them anything, one way to implement this particular strategy of label planting is to instruct everybody, no matter what somebody says to you when you answer the telephone and they say, hey, I need help with so-and-so, or do you know what XYZ is, or I have a question on my phone bill. A standard response could be, sure, I can help you with that, right off the bat. And then at the end of the conversation, for example, you can instruct everybody to say, have I answered all of your questions today? It was my pleasure to help you. I was happy to help you. I'm glad I could help you. And during the conversation, weave in that word as many times as possible. For example, maybe during the conversation, if you're suggesting something to a customer and the top word is helpful that you want people to associate with you, you may want to instruct people in your department to weave into the conversation several times. Would that be helpful to you? Instead of just, for example, would you like that? Or should I do that for you? You know what I'm saying? So pick the words that you want people to associate with your department, with your company, with you, and weave them into your conversations. So on a personal level, for example, if you want people to believe that you are efficient, you want your boss to believe that you are efficient, find ways to weave that into the conversation. For example, instead of saying something such as, well, I believe a better way to go about that might be to do XYZ. You could say, I believe that if we did XYZ, that might be a more efficient way to go about that. Would you agree? Or, let me try doing yada yada to help you with that today. I think that would be efficient. Or words that are associated with being efficient. For example, weave into your conversations as often as you can. I'm going to get that done for you right away. I will find the quickest and most effective way to get that done for you. Quickly and effective is going to translate into efficient. If you want people to believe that you are caring, for example, I have a friend who works in hospice, and hospice wants to be seen as a caring organization. And if that is something that you would like your customers to think about you during the conversations, these words that you're planting in other people's brains should be written down as a visual cue, because remember that visual cues are key in communication. Have these visual cues around to remind one another. Use these words, use these words, use these words. For example, oh, I didn't know that that was happening in your case, and I'm glad that you told me because I really care about things like that. Find as many opportunities as you can to use the word care, if that's your word. If you want them to think that you are that your software, if you're a software company, and you want people to think that your software is powerful, that you are a player in this organization or in this software industry because your software is so powerful, instead of simply talking about the great features of your new product, talk about this is a very powerful feature that you're going to find useful. This is the most powerful software on the market today. This version is more powerful than the version before. See where I'm going? So you want to first, as a professional, decide What are the words that you would like others to associate with you? And start weaving words or synonyms for those words into conversations as often as possible. For example, even on your signature in your emails, once you have chosen, for example, your top words, pick the top one and find a way to weave it into your signature. For example, if you think that if one of your words that you want people to associate with you is professional, maybe in your email signature, you might want to put a tagline, something such as professional services for busy professionals, something like that. Find a way to weave the words that you want others to associate with you as often as possible into your conversations. And as a standard at work, you want to choose what are the top words and have people on the telephone, for example, find the way. For example, as we talked about, make it a standard greeting, or excuse me, a standard opening phrase to say, yes, I can help you with that. And closing phrase, is there anything else I can help you with? Once you've decided what your top words are, decide as a group. Here are going to be some great opening lines for us, some great closing lines for us, where we can weave those words in every time with every customer, whether it's in person or on the telephone, and then find ways to weave them into the conversation. In doing so, people will walk away from the encounters that they have with you thinking, wow, they sure are yada, 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 and the yada, yada, yada will be whatever you tell them to think about you. Because remember that we do tell people what to think about us. Sometimes it's unintentional, sometimes it's intentional. If you make it more intentional, you can create the image and the brand that you want simply by telling other people what to think about you. And that is label planting. Simple and effective. Watch now in advertising, when you talk to companies that are powerful and savvy communicators, how they use it, and start to take the strategies that you see work for others and use them for yourself.